We're not taught to look at, especially with the act of sex, of like, this is a shared experience. This can be good with one person and it also can be good with you. We're not trained in society to look at love and sex in that way as this abundant kind of experience. So my like knee jerk, especially the like toxic masculinity that is like constantly around me, is like, it better not be better. You know what I mean? And then like when I really like go to the core of who I am, the like authenticity of who I am, it's like I sure as fuck better be good. Like, you know what I mean? I hope that it's good with this other partner. I don't want her hurt or sad or like feeling empty or like any of those things after an interaction. But like it is such a reflex to be like, if like she's gonna find something better in someone else.
Hello everyone, welcome to Polycurious. I am Fernanda, and today is the second part of our conversation with Safi and Fifi. So if you haven't listened to the first part yet, just please go back and listen to it first. In the first part, we talk about their individual journeys and their upbringing, and in this second part, we focus more on their relationship. Safi and Fifi are a polyamorous couple. They have a YouTube channel where they share their experience and tips for other couples. And we talk about it a little bit in today's episode, but if you haven't checked it out yet, I highly recommend it. Before we start, I just want to clarify that both the previous episode and the second part were recorded back in August 2020. So things have changed since. One of them being that Safi came out as transgender. So just note that he's no longer using the pronouns she, her, even though we use them in this episode. Back when we talked, they had been together for 2.5 years. So I guess now they're probably past the 3-year mark. And in this episode, they tell us how they met, they share some of the challenges that they encountered and how they dealt with them. So you'll find great tips, whether you are in a monogamous relationship or in a non-monogamous one. We talk about compersion, which is when you feel happy because your partner is happy with someone else. And we also talk about why at that point living together wasn't really something that Safi and Fifi desired, despite really being committed to one another. And overall, it was just such a fun conversation. They are just really great humans, and I hope that you enjoy it as much as I did.
We met so we met at we were mutual friends, or we had mutual friends, and we met, I guess, at a play party, a queer play party called Submit.
We like to say it was love at first fuck.
Yes.
Because it was really the first encounter we ever actually honestly had. I had known of Safi. We like she said had mutual friends. I was intrigued, but I didn't want to get too close. I was like, I don't really want to, I just didn't. I didn't know her well. And then when I found out that our friends were organizing this group trip to this play party and that Safi was on the list of people going, I was like, oh, word? Okay.
I'm definitely going.
Exactly. Like, I'm going. I'm about a bag. Like, this is my chance. Like, I'm going to, finally. Yes, I've had my, eye on her for a while, but that'll be the night. And she wasn't going to go because one of her exes were going to be there.
Two of my exes were there.
Two of her exes were
Well, wow. Perfect timing.
Exactly. And I was like, who cares? Like, just come fuck me in public, please. And it didn't take too much convincing.
No. It was after I was performing poetry, and I was like, I'm not going to this. This is crazy. Like, too many of my exes are there. And she came to my show, and like bought one of my cigarettes and was like, you should come. And I was like, you know what? You bring up a really good point.
We get to the party. I'm still not sure if Safi is aware that I want to have sex with her.
Yeah, I have this problem with being like very deadpan.
Oh my God,
like
same.
seeming a little bit like generally like disinterested in most things, like
yeah. So I had to explicitly ask the question while we were like walking and she was behind me. And it was like a row of our friends that were all walking in the same direction. And I just asked, who wants to make me come? And she was directly behind me. So luckily she said me.
No, I just looked around. And was like, anyone?
Handing you up on a platter.
And then it worked out really well. And I had a fabulous time. And I was like, I want to fuck you again. And we started doing that. And so it was very casual.
Yeah, we were like solo, poly, relationship anarchists. We both gotten out of like intense version like of primary partnerships. So we took it really slow. Like we kind of like parked it on sleepovers and just like being cautious of not like totally being a mesh in this like new relationship energy of like it's so exciting, I want to spend all my time with you. And at around like 6 months of us like doing the things that we were doing, I asked her to be my primary, and she said, I've been telling people you were my primary, so.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely love at first fuck. I did not anticipate that night going the way it did. I actually knew of Sophia like 6 years prior, and I was like, this is one of the most beautiful people I've ever seen. And I had like a creepy eye on her,
but she didn't know, and she was also after you, but you didn't believe it.
Yeah. But so that was good. And I mean, this is also a plug for like fucking early on. I'm a huge advocate for that.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, I don't know. I definitely knew that there was chemistry. And then because of the sex, like it was just like very synchronized. So I thought, okay, great. Now we can perhaps be the same way emotionally and like with our personalities. And I'm glad, it worked out.
Yeah.
I agree. I love that too. Like fucking early. Like I think that I was definitely not brought up to be that way. And like I think that's still something I'm learning now. And like it's funny actually, dating in this world, I feel like I had to still even had to portray as like this innocent, whatever. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's like when you have
whether
this...
you know, like to know whether there's a connection or not.
Right. And not having to like play coy because you feel like, oh, I don't want to give it up just yet, or like,
oh my God. Yeah. I was so bad at that.
We have been together for a little bit over 2.5 years now, nice. Which is crazy to say out loud.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but also in retrospect, because I do plan to spend the rest of my life with Safi, there's a lot left ahead. So, so much learning and growing to do, but it just feels so like seamless here. And we currently don't live together. Safi lives in Bay Ridge and I live in the Bronx. So it's technically like a long distance relationship.
That's what people say.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Distance relationship. All right.
I really dream of the day when I can walk to Safi's apartment. At this stage in our relationship, living apart works well.
So I'm curious about that. So even you saying I dream the day you can walk to each other's apartment. So like, do you guys not plan on living together in the near future at all, or like ever?
I don't know if I think again like relationships are subject to change, but the way we like practice, the way we're kind of very different about our spaces in general. Wow. And
I think we just bicker too much about like the design of the space.
We wouldn't bicker.
What?
He wouldn't care very much about the design of the space, and I would not, and then we would bicker.
Yeah.
But it's not just about that. I think we're just it was hard for me to like, I remember like talking to someone and they were like, so you guys are gonna, like, you're madly in love, you love each other so much, you love spending time together, I assume the next step is moving in. and I didn't, and then I felt in that moment like briefly invalidated. I was like, oh, so I have to. It's not like a real primary partnership if I'm not living with my partner. Like if there's not like a material evidence that this is my primary, and but then like very much letting that go and not like totally making it something that I never want, but just like right now it makes the most sense that we live separately.
Right. Yeah. I think ideally we went to Costa Rica on a trip and we're like, we can have a vacation house together that we live in at the same time. But like during the week, especially weekdays, because we both work and we're both cranky, like the separate space works well.
Yeah, I guess we also wanted to ask you guys about your boundaries because that's different depending on the relationship. Not all non-monogamous relationships are the same. So what type of boundaries have you guys figured out?
I think baseline is honesty, like transparency, communication. And I think we've done a lot of different like we've had like growing pains for sure, and like in terms of like polyamory itself and the way we practice. I didn't realize that I was the kind of partner that likes not to be involved like romantically or sexually, but likes to know my metamours. And I think the most of the like things we would come up against is like me not knowing a metamour well enough, or me not knowing a metamour yet and feeling kind of like threatened or challenged like in the feelings of like insecurity and jealousy. I think like jealousy has been a thing that like an obstacle that we've gotten over. And that, yeah, that was really something I didn't know about myself. I was very much, because my first non-monogamous relationship was of like the don't ask, don't tell variety. I wasn't, and very don't ask, don't tell, not even like knowing of anything that my partner was doing. And I also got the text of like, you should probably get tested. From my ex at the time. But I think the kitchen table, like knowing my metamours, I don't have to like see them all the time or like be like so enmeshed in their lives, but I do like the abundance of love and like the community of loving somebody more than like a parallel dynamic.
Yeah, and it was my first coming from all the learning I had of polyamory was as a solo poly person, as a relationship anarchist. Like I was always a secondary to someone. I was never anyone. Well, I always forget this.
You like totally forget about
I
this
always
entire
forget
relationship that you had with
whole
the person.
ass like primary partnership that I had with someone. Oh God bless. That's not true at all, because I did have that framework. So I think the difference here is that I do feel very comfortable bringing up like if I do want to explore other people. And I think like even as a person who's practiced poly for a while now, like there's still some embarrassment about that.
Yeah.
And like, you know, there's still like this feeling of like, this person, like I think I want to go on a date with somebody.
Right, yeah.
And so learning to become more comfortable with that and creating a dynamic in the relationship where that doesn't have to happen. So I learned that about myself in this relationship, is that as open as I am, I still have some fear around like how to approach that with my partners, and the instinct is still there to like the cheater in me, the one who's operated that way for so many years, is like, this can't possibly be talked about. Like I can't possibly bring up that I want to see other people. So just making sure that that's something that's welcomed and celebrated. Right. And instead of, so that I can feel more comfortable sharing that.
And I think it also helps that Fifi had like a plethora of other partners as I was entering into her life. So like, had it been a dynamic, it might have been more difficult if I was like her we were like monogamous, or even like started off as a primary and she then started seeing other people, even if we had the like polyamorous paradigm in place. But coming in, and that comes a lot from like, I don't see my Metamours or like her secondaries as like secondary to me. I think that like paying my respects to her other partners has been, and like taking a lot of my ego out, or that starting that way took a lot of my ego out of like, I was with her first, she is mine. Like, you know, and it really like kind of paved a way of being able to like no one's really, and it actually produced some awkwardness, because if I don't get clear instructions on certain things, on like the way I should be acting, then I'm like, all right, that's our partner. I just won't like, they're kissing right now. Do I just stand here? Do I like, oh, can I just talk to, like, I don't know what to do, because I always give like too much leeway, or not too much, but like I'm so cautious of like stepping on toes that I sometimes find myself in weird scenarios. I'm like,
and I'm like, no, you can absolutely be like, hey, this looks great, but I'm gonna go do something else.
Yeah.
Or anything like that, yeah. And I think this is in like romance in general, and like relationships across the board, when if there's a difficult thing that comes up, like communicating that and not sitting in like the tension of it for too long. Because so we actually recorded a video recently on how Safi yelling improved our relationship. And it's because, yes, she operates in this way with like, if there's no clear instruction, like not sure like what to do, like
and now it's more like, hey, tell me what the fuck to do, please.
Right, like communicating, whatever way, even if it's shouting.
If it's, and it for me also, like, you know, I grew up in a loud household, so like, yell, please, like, yes, I can hear you properly, like, okay, registered, like, so after implementing that kind of way of communicating, if things are bothering us, then it helps just clear the air sooner rather than later.
It helps to laugh too, like that kind of like, it helps to not take ourselves so seriously in the moment. Like when you're sitting in this like broody like resentment, you start to like, the narrative starts of like, she's gonna leave me for somebody else. And like, when the way I've experienced jealousy is that I become distant. I like make, the story is now true. She has left me already, even though like she's fully in this relationship with me. And I have to start behaving, and like my life, I need to start imagining my life without her. You know, it gets very dramatic.
Yeah.
Because, and that's from not talking about it and not like putting it into like manifesting it in this like conversation, being able to be like, hey babe, like I feel this way about this partner, I'm feeling insecure right now, I need reassurance, or I just need like a conversation about it, because sometimes you're not going to hear what you want to hear, you know, and like also accepting that. But sitting in the resentment is really what starts to like peel away at the relationship, at least for, I think, most relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, like, it brings up so many old behaviors for me, because as the person, at least in our dynamic, I have the other partners. I'm usually the one that goes on dates. I'm the one usually who's having sex with other people. So if I feel like there's a resentment brewing and I'm not getting that information, I'm gonna shut off too. Right. And it's going to be a thing where, you know what?
And you're going to start feeling guilty.
Exactly.
Because even though you haven't heard from him, you like, you know that there's some hurt feelings or something going on by the way he's acting or
absolutely.
Whatever.
Yeah. The guilt is where it all stems from. So I'm like, if you have a problem with this, then I'll just leave. Right. So that's where the thinking will like go down.
And then on my end, it's like, if you want to leave, then just fucking leave. You know, it's like this, it's such a spiral that can be so easily avoided with vulnerability. Even if the feeling is uncomfortable, even if it's going to be like a messy like conversation, that like not talking and us like creating these stories back and forth ends in this like, well then fucking leave. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just not how I want to talk or think about any of my partners in this way of like you know, like
yeah. Because that's obviously not what I want.
Right.
And but I think like that's the hard boundary.
Yeah.
You know, if we're not talking about BDSM and like what are my red, green, yellows, then that's it when it comes to like open relationships and polyamory for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you found that when you've like opened up, her response has been, because you said like it's not always what you want to hear, but it always helps, right?
It always helps to know that like, you know, like struggling with information, like how much do I want to know and how much do I want to know to make me feel a little bit more comfortable and like the relationship she has with this other person, and how much do I not want to know. Typically I actually want to know more than I want to know less, but you know, like it's dealing with a muscle that's not been worked, like of like letting go of ego, competition, like all of these things, because we're not taught to look at, especially with specifically the act of sex, of like, this is a shared experience. This can be good with one person and it also can be good with you. You know, we're not trained in society to look at love and sex in that way as this abundant kind of experience. So my like knee jerk, especially the like toxic masculinity that is like constantly around me, is like, it better not be better, you know what I mean? And then like when I really like go to the core of who I am, the authenticity of who I am, it's like I sure as fuck better be good. Like, you know what I mean? I hope that it's good with this other partner. I don't want her hurt or sad or like feeling empty or like any of those things after an interaction. But like it is such a reflex to be like, if like she's gonna find something better in someone else.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because even though you might have been in a situation in which you have strong feelings for two people, and you can totally see when you're in that situation very clearly that that doesn't distract from the other person. The fact that you like or love one person doesn't mean that you don't love another one.
Right.
But then when you're on the other side and then the other person is with others, your mind immediately goes to, I'm lacking something, that person is better. There's a hierarchy when in reality it doesn't work like that, you know?
Right. Yeah. I feel fortunate that I have rarely felt that. I think like with my partners, I don't know. I get so excited when my partners have other people in their lives. And maybe this is like my confidence in myself sexually, like having had sex since 13, like, and knowing that it's like a power of mine or something. I'm like, you go have your fun. You'll be back. It's fine. So it's
She's a witch.
Maybe that's why I am like polyamorous, and I just really feel like, I don't know. And also sex is so different with different people. Like, I think more than anything, what makes this work, like the sex was first and the sex was incredible. And that's what led to everything we have now. But what really made it stick is our personalities and our chemistry and how we operate.
It's raining for anyone listening. in case you hadn't noticed, there's not much we can do about that. So sorry, guys.
But yeah, so it's that really makes it work, and I don't know, like, I'd be very surprised if you can find this anywhere else.
What?
Well, he's like, what I do.
I was just listening. I don't know. Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, just talking about like the confidence in a relationship and how that is necessary. Not to say that jealousy isn't ever present, but I mentioned this. It's compersion, right? Now this is actual compersion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you explain what that is for people who might not know?
The What is it?
It's kind of like the opposite of jealousy, where you experience joy and feeling like elated when your partner is enjoying another person or excited. It's just like very much the opposite of feeling envy or jealousy. Yeah.
Oh my god, I
Yeah.
gotta tell you a little story. Logan and I were at this sex party, and I have this huge crush on this guy that we probably all know, but and we were playing around, we were having sex. I was like, all these great juicy things, and then at the end of the night, we ended up spending the night, and I ended up cuddling with another guy, and Logan and this big crush I have ended up falling asleep holding hands. And Logan's completely straight, but they fell asleep holding hands, and I freaking died.
God,
like, I know.
So
I
sweet.
know.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
And I
she
could
told me
cry.
next day, like, that was the thing that happened at the party.
Yeah.
Not whatever else happened before or after that. That was like the thing she had to tell me about.
Because it was I think it was also the first time we really experienced compersion, and like he was just both of us were kind of just fully embodying it, and it is kind of difficult to get to that situation where you feel that comfortable, but when it does, it's such a magical feeling to be able to just experience that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I'm a little embarrassed that the way I led into compersion was with like a very egotistical description of how I'm a sex goddess. But that's really that was what I meant. I actually meant that compersion is like something I feel like I was born with that, and that's why like I wish I had known that polyamory was an option. But you know what? I'm actually really glad that I learned about it in my 20s. Like, I caused enough damage. I learned from those mistakes, so I didn't have to make them in polyamory. Because those same mistakes can happen in open, non-monogamous scenarios where, people are irresponsible and lie and cheat. Like, that's totally still, like, can happen. So I'm glad I was able to like keep those two worlds separate.
And even as someone who experiences jealousy, like compersion is very, and I said it like in a joking way, but like the cuckold in me is very, and it's not even like I have to be there, I have to be watching it, but like knowing that it happened and having the details, and like when I felt jealousy, I was like, oh, this must mean I'm not polyamorous. And it was like a very specific scenario. It was before I learned that there are these, what I really want is to fall asleep holding hands with a metamour, right?
Right.
And the only times I feel jealousy if I feel that a metamour is very separate from me. But like, that is like the wet dream, is to like, whatever, you get dicked down by some nice man and then we fall asleep together.
And that's the thing. That was one of the most surprising things that I learned when learning about non-monogamy, was that actually meeting your partner's partners makes you less jealous.
Yes.
Because
Absolutely.
everyone would think that it makes you more jealous, but it actually, at least from the people I've talked to, it becomes less mysterious. It becomes less threatening because you know that person has good intentions. That person knows you, so there's some sort of acknowledgement.
Right.
So it actually helps with jealousy, and that's what I tried to tell Seth as well. I'm like, this could help if you just met them,
Yeah, there is like a level of like, one of our first like experiences of like being entangled with another partner, and not in like a sexual scenario, was with one of our partners, and we went on a date, the three of us, or I met them after, so it was very much his time with her, and I didn't feel like, what do I do, blah blah, like it was just like us interacting, us like doting and like loving her, and yeah, it was just very simple. And it's just camaraderie. It's like, it is a really beautiful
because
thing.
if that person had a connection with Fifi and you also have a connection, you are gonna have some things in common.
Yeah,
sure.
I wrote a poem about him, actually.
Oh, wow, really?
That is compersion.
Yeah.
It's like straight up.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanna hear that poem. Do you
I don't
have
have it
it?
with me,
Oh,
but
okay.
I would, yeah, one day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do want to touch on it a little bit too. Is I know that you guys, I mean, we've been talking about it all night, but you guys have an incredible YouTube channel where you're sharing all these incredible and very specific topics in kind of bite-sized pieces for people who are also curious. I feel like
Yeah.
I think you're targeting kind of the same audience. So, how did that come to be, and why did you create that?
Quarantine very much was helpful to like the creative. I think it was something we talked about, but we didn't have like a enough of a vision for like what we actually need to do for it to look a certain way. But it was always something like I want to do something like educational with you, like regarding like sex and lifestyle, whether it's creating a podcast, creating, and then we were like talking to our friends and they were like, you should make an Instagram and start a YouTube channel. And literally the day after, we were making an Instagram and starting a YouTube channel.
Wow.
And it was like no background or like knowledge or I don't know. I don't even know anyone personally until like I started discovering people that I knew, mutual friends that had YouTube channels. And I'm like, okay, people I know do this. Like it's possible. And so we just like made the account and started it. And we had known that we wanted to provide some representation for people like us, you
Right.
know, queer people of color that are also polyamorous. So it
or
was,
curious.
or
about,
curious or
Yeah.
just like exactly. And we thought we're too fucking niche not to do something about this.
Yeah.
So and we have so much to talk about. So it was very easy. Like, you know, the videos just keep coming. Like so
Right.
many subjects and like also as we continue to create content, people engage and
Yeah.
seem really interested. It took on the like it started to become more sex positive oriented, like unbeknownst to us, I think. Like
I think once Hacienda reached out to us, it
Right.
started to kind of become this really talking about like sex education and a more like accessible like humor, like levity, bringing like a little bit of the ways I would have wanted to be talked to about these things, like casual joking around and like not in this like very intimidating and not in like a finger pointing way either, like you're doing something wrong if you're not doing this yet, you know, or like don't understand this yet. So it like really came, at least for me, like the driving force is like, who did I need to be talking to when I was like dating people for long bouts of time and then breaking up with them the minute I had like feelings for someone else. Like before I kind of caused a lot of damage, like what could I have heard, you know,
Yeah.
moving forward.
Well, that's exactly what this podcast is about. So I think this is a great segue into our last question, which is what would you say to a polycurious person? So what would you say to that past self of
Yeah.
yours when, you know, you were experiencing these things and you didn't know about this world? Or just to someone who's curious right now, you know, after you've experienced all that you have experienced and learned from?
Yeah. I guess for me it's really the shame and the guilt. Like that is the thread of my past life, is really feeling that I was a bad person for wanting to be with multiple people. And so dismantling that, which takes work, and owning your desires and whatever propels you. So that's the first thing, is like you're not wrong for wanting those things. You're not disgusting for wanting those things. And in fact, like you can celebrate that you want those things, and there's a safe, ethical, honest way of doing it. So if I had gotten that news when I was a teenager, then, you know, maybe I would have heard a lot less people. So when I did hear that for the first time and hear that slut could be a reclaimed word that I could use.
Right. We should probably reference to this book, actually.
The ethical slut is is like the book that taught me about poly. Also just slut, like, you know, a lot of influencers and celebrities like Amber Rose, you know, the just ending slut shame across the board and stop using terms like that to police women's bodies.
Sorry, like slut shaming, like never. Even when I was younger, didn't like compute for me. I was like, why? I don't get it. You know? Like it doesn't really make sense. Anyways.
Yeah. So anyway, at least for me and for my younger self, that's what I would have said. It's like, just be kind to yourself and do some research. Read this book. Yeah.
It's called The Ethical Slut by, I don't know, by
Dottie Easton.
Study.
Nice.
We'll put it in the show notes
Mm-hmm.
for you guys. Yeah, that's great. How about you, Safi?
I would say, I guess, on the other end, yeah, no, like, definitely there's no shame in wanting other partners. And there's also, like, no shame in being uncomfortable with, like, if you're first, like, experimenting with polyamory and, like, feelings, like we said, jealousy, discomfort, it's awkward sometimes, it's weird. That shouldn't be the driving force to deter someone from going forth and, like, experimenting more. And that it's like normal to feel those feelings, those kind of negative, like icky emotions in any kind of like relationship paradigm. So, and I would also say like building a community and like having people to talk to about like polyamorous things, like issues that come up, like truly, like clearly we're not the only ones, you know. So, yeah, I think I would tell that to myself and anyone else practicing or newly practicing.
I love it. I love both your messages. So thank you so much. Honestly, I've had such a great time.
Yeah, this was fun.
It was really
Good
fun. We're definitely having you again. Thank you guys so much for coming
you
on
guys
to the
for
show.
having
me.
It was
Yay,
great.
thank
Yay! Love you guys. Well, there you have it. Safi and Fifi. How incredible are they? Please, if you like what you heard in today's episode and the previous one, give them some love by subscribing to their YouTube channel, which is linked in the show notes, or you can just type Safi and Fifi in YouTube and it will come up. You can also follow them on Instagram at safi.n.fifi, and you can follow us as well at Polycurious Podcast. If you like the show, please don't forget to subscribe, and if you feel like reaching out to say hi, our email is polycuriouspodcast@gmail.com. Okay guys, that's it from me. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you all next week.